to investigate what should be done, what prosecution should be done, what compensation should be paid. I appeared in that case on behalf of the community to argue first for compensation and second for prosecution. I will deal with it in that order. The Punjab government was so bold as to say that these persons died in our custody. These persons, these hundreds of persons who were cremated, these persons died in our custody. So I asked in cross-examination, if they were with you when they died, how did they die? And you must listen to what the Punjab Government Council said. He said, these persons were enemy agents. I'll just pause here for a while. Enemy agents is a term used for the enemy in war. It is not a term used for persons who were arrested in India for the commission of an offense. If you are arrested for a crime, you are called in under trial. That is to say, you are presumed innocent unless you are proven guilty. These persons were just persons against whom there was a charge leveled but not proved. They had not yet gone to court. They were under trials. So what does the Punjab government say? These persons were enemy agents. We caught them. They were in our custody. Then we took them with us. We took them with us to find out the hideouts of the terrorists. And while taking them with us, the terrorists opened fire and these persons got killed. Ladies and gentlemen, just think about this. This is the clearest admission by a government council that the boys who were under trials were used as human shields. If at all the story is true, that they were used as human shields. And it is a war crime. In international law, it is a war crime to take a person in your custody and use him as a human shield. You will remember in the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, there was one case, can you imagine one case, where a young Palestinian boy was captured and then held as a human shield while the Israeli forces were fighting the Palestinian forces. And that became an international incident because one person was used as a human shield. And in our case, hundreds of young persons killed being used as human shields. All right, so after they were killed, what is the compensation to be paid to them? Justice Anand, who was heading the bench, asked me how much should they be paid. I said, sir, a minimum of 10 lakhs as on the date of the killing, somewhere in the 90s, and interest. So it comes to 20 lakhs or 25 lakhs, a small amount for the killing of a person. But I was going by the usual standards given by the courts. You won't believe what the NHRC gave us. The NHRC gave us $5,000. $5,000 for the killing of persons in custody. And then you ask us why our wounds are not healing. You ask us why we cannot move on. You ask us to forget the past. We cannot. Because the insult to the community after the injury, the insult to the community can never be forgiven. I went to a bookstore today and there was a poster on that bookstore. We can never forget. We can never forgive. Not when you cannot even give us compensation for the death of our boys who were taken from the families. Prosecution we will keep aside for the time being. You cannot even pay compensation. A government which has an 8% GDP growth rate, which was an Asian tiger, is today an international tiger, a world tiger, economic tiger. And you can't even pay compensation for the persons who were dead. Then the NHRC goes on to the second issue of compensation for illegal cremation. What happened was, the bodies were taken, they were taken secretively to the crematoriums, and they were burnt. In cross-examination, we asked them, there's the Punjab Police Manual. There are rules for identification of bodies. You have to take the photograph of the face. You have to take the fingerprints of the deceased. You have to take his articles, personal articles, his clothing, his wallet. And you have to advertise in the newspapers and say this person was found dead. This is his photograph. And you have to perhaps take DNA samples so that you can check it to see. They did not do anything. They admit, we have not done anything, sir. We have not taken photographs, we have not taken fingerprints, we have not retained their articles, we have not advertised in the paper. So what does the NHRC do? They pay 1.75 lakhs, few $1,000. 1.75 lakhs for illegal cremation, for violating the dignity of the dead. It's a new branch of international law where the family have rights over the body. All right, you have killed my son. Give me his body. I will take it, and according to the rights of my community, I will do the final ceremonies. And if you violate that right, I have a right to take action against you and get compensation and punish you for violating the dignity of the dead. So 2.5 lakhs for murder, 1.75 lakhs for violating the dignity of the dead, for not informing the parents, for not handing over the bodies to the parents. Then I tell the NHRC, sir, these are separate issues. 2.5 lakhs is for murder, 1.75 lakhs is for illegal cremation. Therefore, I should get 2 lakhs, 2.5 plus 1.75. I should get the combination. Justice Anand says, no, this 1.75 lakhs is part of your 2.5 lakhs. Which means, if you deduct 1.75 lakhs from 2.5 lakhs, the actual amount that I am getting for being murdered in custody is something like 75,000 rupees. If you deduct the part of 1.75. This, my dear friends, is a story of the case in the NHRC. This was the second last phase of Khalra Sa's case. Went to the Supreme Court, went to the NHRC. This was the pathetic performance of NHRC. Then we asked the NHRC, open the CBI reports. The CBI investigation is now complete. The CBI has submitted 7 reports to the Supreme Court in sealed covers. NHRC says no, unless the Supreme Court orders us, we will not open the report. Therefore, the prosecution of the policemen of the Punjab is still awaiting the permission of the Supreme Court. This was the fate of the NHRC case. Against the NHRC orders, we went to the Supreme Court. Paranjit Kaur's case in the Supreme Court is pending disposal. And God willing, I am hopeful that in the days to come, perhaps in this year itself, we will get an answer to the questions that we have asked for so long. The prosecution of the police and compensation for those who have died. That is the matter pending now in the Supreme Court. Manmohan Singh came to Canada, I am told, last year. And he told the Sikh community, you must move on. You must forget the past. And I asked, is the 1984 massacre, the genocide of the Sikh people in 1984, is it the past? Is 1984 part of history? Has 1984 become obsolete? Is it an old story that we keep on talking about again and again and again? And I want to develop a point which Navkiranji made when she spoke earlier. 1984 was a testing ground for the Indian state. Testing ground. Can we massacre people on a large scale? Can we try to eliminate a community? Can we do genocide and get away with it? In Indian law, in our Indian legal system, you can shoot a man, you'll be prosecuted, you'll go behind bars. you'll get life imprisonment. But you can try and kill, and you can actually exterminate 3,000, 4,000 people and get away with it. And the lesson of 1984 is that you can actually kill people on a large scale. And if you have political backing of the government in power, and if the police are told to keep silent and not register FIRs and not prosecute, the criminals can get away with it. That is the lesson of 1984. And because in 1984 the guilty were not punished, the government and politicians learned a very important lesson. Might is right. The law does not work when the criminals are from the party in power. So in 1992, when the BJP and the Shiv Sena were in power, 3,000 Muslims were slaughtered on the streets of Bombay. I was in Bombay practicing in the High Court. 3,000 Muslims were slaughtered on the streets of Bombay. Can you imagine? Largest democracy in the world, shining India, rising India. What kind of nonsense is all this? Which country in this world can massacre people like this and call itself a democracy? 3,000 Muslims killed. No legal aid provided. No prosecutions, no convictions at all. 2002, Gujarat, same story. 3,000 Muslims killed on the streets of Ahmedabad and Baroda. There, to some extent, the human rights community got together and we did prosecutions, but even there, in case after case, the victim community has been threatened. They go to the homes of the victim community and say, if you give evidence against us, we will kill you also. And then they have withdrawn their cases. And in 2007, the attacks on the Christians in Kandhamal, where 150 Christians were killed and their houses were burnt. Would these riots have happened if the 1984 prosecutions had been done properly? Would anyone have the courage to riot if the courts had acted fearlessly? But no. The High Court was not effective. Supreme Court was not effective in these cases. The criminal justice system collapsed. And this government gave full support for all these criminals so that they can be acquitted. Therefore, my dear friends, 84 is not an issue of the past. It's an issue of contemporary India. It's an issue of present-day India. It's an issue for today. Until we confront this weakness in our legal system, in the application of constitutional law, unless we confront it, that we must stop riots from happening in free India, democratic India, unless we stop it once, these riots will never be an aspect of history. These riots will never be something we should forget. We are right when we say we will never forget, we will never forgive, not because of the past, not because of our community alone, but for all Indians, for all communities, that there must never be riots and massacre and genocide of any community in India from this day onwards. That is the message of 84. I want to talk a little bit about stigma. The Indian government has developed a masterful piece of art. First you massacre a community, then you stigmatize the community. And you stigmatize the community